we would bring folks together to get different perspectives. And then we would do exercises like the brand pyramid. Obviously, one of the distinctive parts of Play-Doh is the smell. Said, we should do a perfume. Wouldn't that be fun? We could all smell like Play-Doh. And we probably all laughed at it in the beginning and then said, wait a minute. Because we had, chemists, we had relationships with folks that could work on scent for us. During that time, certain stores would put pine scent into the aisle so that you would get in the mood for Christmas and start wanting to decorate your house and, to sort of encourage purchasing. One of the things I learned from Watts Wacker, who was a futurist, was this idea of prescience calendars. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Those are the best opportunities to create a bond with your consumer is when something goes wrong. I mean, think about that. The second most recognizable scent behind coffee.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Push podcast. My name's Jack Ferguson, an experienced brand strategist with a science background. In my career, I've worked across 25 industries and helped increase client and employer revenue by over $40 million. I will be your host. This season of the podcast is essential listening for marketers looking to better sell their strategies to stakeholders, get client buy-in, and keep internal teams engaged. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 62 of the Push podcast. Today we have an incredible guest joining us. Leigh Anne Capello, the former VP of Marketing from Play-Doh, has got on the podcast and shared some of her wisdom with us. She was very generous with sharing her knowledge and some behind the scenes of her time at Play-Doh. But also we talked a bit about what she's been up to in her years since. She introduced me to a lot of concepts in this episode, including the idea of a prescience calendar, which I hadn't heard of before. You may have heard her mention at the start of the episode that the best time to build a relationship with your customers or audience is when something goes wrong. I'm going to follow her advice, and I'll just give you the heads up ahead of time that there is a little bit of dinging in the background in this episode here and there. There's not a whole lot. It's not on your end. It's the audio in this episode. I haven't done a whole heap of remote recording at this stage, and I'm somewhat still learning the ropes, so I do apologize for that. I don't think it disrupts the experience too much, but I wanted to give you a little bit of warning. As far as what Leigh Anne and I talk about in this episode, you can find links to the books and blogs that we do mention. Those links will be in the description of the podcast. Links to my online presence are there as well, as always. At this stage, I'd normally share more about the guest and their history, but we get into that early during the discussion. So I think we just get straight into it, and you can hear that all from Leigh Anne herself. Hello, Leigh Anne. How are you doing today?
Good, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Thank you for joining me on this call from the other side of the world. I'm coming from Victoria, Australia, and I believe you're over in Rhode Island, USA. So thanks for making this work and talking to us today.
Yeah, so excited to be on the call with you, Jack.
Just a quick background for people. So I recently became fascinated with Play-Doh scent. So Play-Doh trademarked that recently. I did an episode on it. It was so interesting to me. And in that discovery, I came across you because you were the VP of marketing for Play-Doh for a period of time, and you actually were quoted talking about the scent itself. And I was actually thinking, believe it or not, I was thinking about trying to get your take on that episode, but I didn't have time. I was just running out of time. So, yeah. But I went and read your Medium blog as well. And I thought, oh, wow, I'm actually going to reach out to Leigh Anne and see if she's willing to jump on the podcast and talk to us about a few things, because your posts were one of those things that you read, and I read every word. That is very interesting. I loved the way you thought. You referred yourself as an innovation junkie. And there was just a lot of a cool discussion, I thought, around, let's say, transformational change as opposed to incremental improvement, which was a breath of fresh air, I'd say, to read. So I thought we'd start there. What are you up to these days?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'll always be an innovation junkie. And it's funny that you brought up the word transformational change from that article, because I worked with someone a while back who asked me what my word was. And I thought that was such a great question. I was like, my word, what do you mean? What's my word? Well, everybody has a word that kind of, defines them, that gets to their core. And I labored over this because I wanted my word. And one day I was watching some renovation show or, a makeover show or something like that. And I realized how much I loved watching things transform from bad to good, or from ugly to beautiful, or from mad to happy, or, I love watching things completely transform, just doing that 180. And I thought transformation is my word, because that's what's always gotten me excited throughout my career. So I think, I had a long career in marketing at Hasbro, as you know, went on to do a lot of other, different things. Because once I headed up Future Thinking, I sort of discovered this idea of diagonal thinking and transformational change. And, through a mentor, Watts Wacker was his name. He was an incredible, guy. And partnering with this woman, Gina Malone from Hasbro, my mind sort of cracked open. And that's when I realized that's really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I started applying those future thinking principles to a social electronic startup, to I was a senior executive in a senior living organization where we were really trying to rethink, from an innovation standpoint, rethink how we deliver these services to these vulnerable populations. Did consulting in education for the marginalized populations, the Black and brown populations, and healthcare as well. And it was at that time in my life when transformational change started to really come to fruition. And so back to your question about what am I doing now? I'm sort of in those golden years of my career. And I decided what I wanted to do was what I love. So I started my own business called Rethink, which is just helping people rethink, reimagine, how they go about their business, how they go about leading, how they go about building product, imagining new services, whatever it is, and, helping them make profit from it. But I do that in a really kind of unique way. I think I mentioned to you before, because I offer my services for free and then let them decide what that value is, because I long story for another conversation, but I just feel like that is a business model that makes me happy. And that's what I want to do. So that's where I am right now today, is helping rethink their work or their business.
It's like you're practicing what you're preaching there, because you've rethought business models as well. Like you're offering this
Absolutely.
business model. I've actually never heard of that business model ever, I don't think, in my career. Maybe it's an Australian thing, but I haven't heard of, I've dealt with the US a bit as well and haven't heard of it there either.
Yeah, I can't think of a person who has said to me, "Oh yeah, I've heard that business," but they just look at me like, "What?" Including my husband. What? What are you going to do?
So if we go back in time a little bit, you were VP of marketing for Play-Doh.
Yes.
So what years was that from? So we've got an idea of what span we're looking at.
Holy moly, that must have been the late 90s, I guess. Well, I was at Hasbro for 24 years. I started in sales administration, then went to marketing, and then found my real niche in future thinking. And my last 7 years was when I was doing future thinking. So we were working on every brand in the company when I was working in the future thinking group, because it was about thinking of the future of play, of business, of design, of technology, of parenting, of socializing, of all of those things, and then applying it to new opportunities for Hasbro. So it was really every brand, including games.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. I think I came across where you were quoted. I think it was 2006 when you brought out the perfume with Play-Doh.
Oh, was it 2006?
I think it was. I think that's when the article came out. Yeah, but people, they'd be fascinated why you decided to release a perfume as Play-Doh.
I know, so funny. That was one of my favorite projects. Yeah, and I think what happened was, I'm going way back. I have forgotten so much, but the 50th anniversary was coming up. I know we had a massive brainstorm around how are we going to celebrate the 50th anniversary in a really Play-Doh way and in a real unique way. And typically what we did for those opportunities was we would bring people from every department in, because everybody experiences our toys and our brands. So whether they worked in legal or PR or design or sales, wherever, we would bring folks together to get different perspectives. And then we would do exercises like the brand pyramid. You're familiar with the brand pyramid, with the attributes of the brand, and then the functional benefits, emotional benefits. And then at the top of the pyramid is the brand essence. So we would fill out a brand pyramid, and that helped us think differently about, what is the essence or the DNA of the brand, and then how can we sort of pull that apart and imagine new experiences or products or content or whatever, from that experience. So I know we obviously did that for Play-Doh, and some other exercises we did was the brand story, and well, just going back to the brand pyramid, obviously one of the distinctive parts of Play-Doh is the smell, the attributes. And then we talk about, well, how does that make you feel? And it's sort of brings back memories for the parents and for the kids, it's just part of the entire experience. And for a 50th anniversary, you're usually for an anniversary for a kid's product, you're talking to the parents. So, we likely brainstormed around that. And my guess is, one of our ultra creative designers like Gina Malone or Gary Serby said, we should do a perfume. Wouldn't that be fun? We could all smell like Play-Doh. And we probably all laughed at it in the beginning, and then said, wait a minute, because we had, chemists, we had relationships with folks that could work on scent for us. We like to push the boundaries, and we just said, let's do it. Let's create it. We also would work on things like brand story, which I started to mention. So who's the antagonist? Who's the protagonist? Who's the hero? Who are the benefactors of the brand? And that really helps you, as I'm sure dig into what's getting in the way, or where are some potential opportunities that we maybe have not talked about. So that's typically what we do when we have a big anniversary or a big new launch, or we're trying to reimagine a brand. We do those. We used to do those kinds of exercises along with a lot of other crazy, brainstorms, break it, fix it, different, techniques for digging in and getting to unique opportunities and ideas.
And did you have a commercial goal in mind? I'm just trying to work out how the company thought about it in terms of we want to make a certain amount of sales, or we don't really care about that. This has a different purpose.
That's a great question, Jack. And I can tell you that the perfume specifically was never created as some massive revenue generating campaign. It was really part of the 50th anniversary celebration. So it was really a media attention tactic. Let's get the attention of the media and let's get them talking about Play-Doh. So it was strictly that.
And when you talk about the brand essence and the brand DNA, how do you think about that? Can you dig into that a little bit deeper for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually my favorite part of marketing, because I don't honestly think that you can truly have a good marketing campaign without deeply understanding what those human touch points are for the brand specifically. What is it that makes someone enjoy this brand? What is it that talks to them emotionally? What are the functional aspects of it? For me, whenever I work with someone, I always have to start there. Always have to start with, what do we know about this brand? How does it speak to our consumers? And what's getting in the way of it moving forward? So I always think that the brand pyramid is it's such a basic. It's been around for, decades, but it's such a great place to start, because you're breaking it down into its kind of cellular parts, right? So, and I think especially when you get to those emotional aspects of it. So, when you think about the scent as an example, and in that book that we've talked about, Brand Sense, Martin Lindstrom talks about how scent is the sense that is most closely connected to memory, right? So of all of, touch, sight, everything. So, which I found fascinating. That book's been around a while, but it was fairly novel to me in my job during that time when I was working on Play-Doh. And I absolutely loved this idea of tapping into those touch points that you wouldn't typically think of. It's sort of like this voodoo way of connecting with people. In fact, during that time, I remember reading that certain stores would even in their fake Christmas tree aisles, would put pine scent into the aisle so that you would get in the mood for Christmas and start wanting to decorate your house and, to sort of encourage purchasing. And I found that whole thing fascinating. So, when you think about scent was one part of it, but even just understanding, well, what is the emotional benefit and who are all the players involved, right? So the emotional benefit of Play-Doh is that I can, and I actually have a great story here. I can create and recreate. There's no judgment, which for a kids don't judge. They just want to create and recreate and smash it and recreate again. And, nobody's grading it. Nobody's, telling you what it is or isn't. This blob to them looks like a dog and to somebody else might look like a blob. It's just a beautiful, free flowing, product to exercise your imagination. And then, when you think about, okay, so if that's part of the DNA, then what might not work? And I think I mentioned one time when we were talking about the make and play, right? So you make something out of Play-Doh and then you put a cap on it, right? So you put a little dome over it and then you can keep your creation. So here's something that the DNA could have told us. We made that and it was, the buyers loved it, right? As adults, we thought, oh, our kid's making something and we can now put a cap on it and keep it. And so the buyers loved it. And it sold a little, I think it sold a little bit, but then it just sort of went away, right?
Okay.
If you think about the DNA of Play-Doh, that what's so beautiful about it is the moldability, the smashability, the reusability of it, then we're almost saying like, no, we need to protect this now and put it away and put it. That's an adult thing. That's not what the children are getting out of it or loving it. They want to smash it and recreate it. So is that the reason that Make and Play, didn't last as long as we would have liked it to? Who knows? But I'm just saying that when you dig into, or make and keep, I keep saying make and play, but it was make and keep your creation. But when you dig into sort of like what those true emotional benefits are for the consumer, you have more opportunity to build off of what works emotionally, psychologically, functionally, et cetera. Right. So, and there's multiple consumers. You're talking about, you have to get through the parent when it's an adult, when it's a child purchase, right? So we might get through the adult by addressing some of the adult concerns like messiness, but in practicality, is that actually going to be used? You don't know until you try, right? So it's about taking every little aspect of that DNA out and thinking, if we push on that one just a little further, what might we be able to do? Or what shouldn't we maybe do if we really take that to heart, considering all actors in the brand story, including the buyer. But I think, when you start thinking about cracking open your brand and thinking about what haven't we thought about before, rather than go down the path of, well, what's been done and how can we do it better, or what do we think, we as brand people, using all kind of brand growth tactics that we've learned over the course of our careers, instead of that, like just digging in and deeply understanding what that journey is from the time you're considering the purchase to the time you're disposing of the product, the entire journey, the entire story, every touch point in there. See if there can be improvement or opportunity.
When you do that, do you look at the brand heritage much? Like, do you go back to, when it started and the progression all the way through?
Yeah, always. I mean, sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it isn't. For Play-Doh, I think I was just always fascinated with it, if nothing else. It started off as, I think, a wallpaper paste or something like that. And that's one of those accidental innovations that was just incredible, unintended consequences of the use of some specific product. So yeah, we always go back and look at the heritage. There's a lot that can be learned there. In fact, one of the things I learned from my time in Future Now from Watts Wacker, who was a futurist, was this idea of prescience calendars. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
Yeah. So this isn't necessarily answering your question about heritage. I mean, I just always think heritage is important, and I have examples probably in other projects that I've worked on where it's really made a huge difference, because you're tapping back into the roots of what made this popular at a period in time. But building off of that, this idea of prescience calendar was also fascinating, because if you're going back over time, just in general, and you're looking at the year that we're going to be launching this product, what is it the 50th anniversary of? So you go back in time and you look at, what's the 50th anniversary of copper? It's the 50th anniversary of whatever. I'm not going to ever be able to come up with good examples of it right now. But what happens is, over time, people celebrate certain anniversaries, and then that becomes kind of public narrative or discourse, right? So in these specific anniversaries in time, like everything's cyclical, you would start to look at, well, next year we're launching it. What is it the 100th anniversary of? Because I'm sure people will be talking about it. And then it reignites memories, likes, experiences in people's minds, right? And so you start to kind of want to engage with some of these things again, if it's a happy anniversary or something. So building, trying to learn from some of, what's going to be happening in the future based on what happened in the past and what discourse or public narrative might be coming to fruition can also help you reimagine how you might talk about or message, or even, it's the 50th anniversary of copper and everybody's talking about, the penny and Lincoln or, whatever. How can you maybe then build some of that into your brand, if it makes sense, obviously. Not force fitting anything, but it's like, oh, hey, they're going to be celebrating that. That might make sense to sort of weave some of that into the fabric of our marketing or of our product or something like that.
And interesting to think that so long as it aligns with the brand, I've seen people try and jump on trends before that don't really align. And
so true. I am so always hesitant when somebody says, oh, this is a trend, let's get on. Oh my gosh. And in the toy business, we're quick, but we're just not that quick. And trends come and go so fast, especially today. It's so hard to make something last because there are just so many distractions and stimuli for, especially, for kids, being pulled in so many different directions. So yeah, trends are tough. I like creating trends instead of following them. How do you try to think about what's coming so that you can sort of create a new trend? And that's hard. It's hard to get companies to embrace that, because we as humans like to see evidence that this is going to work
first. Yeah.
Right. And so if there's already evidence that it's going to work, somebody's already thought of it before. It's not very innovative, is it?
You had an interesting take on that, I thought, in one of your articles, about how you said that you think it's important that large organizations in particular have a safe space where they can try things and innovate, and it's okay if a lot of them fail.
Absolutely. A lot of the training that I had throughout some of my career was rooted in design thinking. And design thinking is all about imagining an idea, creating it, and trying it, prototyping it, learning from that, iterating, and doing it better the next time, right? So especially, I'm saying especially large organizations, but I've worked for startups, I've worked for mid-size, I've worked for large organizations. It is really hard for companies who are trying to pull a profit to embrace that theory, right? Because you want to get it right. You want to get it right the first time. So you test it and it's so hard to test something that's brand new because there's no context for it. So, are you going to choose this or this? Well, of course, the one I know, but in companies that do embrace this idea of prototypical development, and let's just do it and put it out there. Let's do it and put it out there as long as it's safe and it works and it's good. And then let's create that dialogue with our consumers to learn what they like about it and what they don't like about it. And let's make sure that we're paying attention to them. And this idea of having a relationship with your customer is everything today. I remember when I was at Hasbro, and I started learning about this idea of having a relationship with your customer, I was calling it relationship marketing. Like we have to dive in. We have to have a relationship with our consumer, which in a very large organization is very difficult to do. And most people were looking at me like I had 3 heads, and I did. I got so bored so easily, I'd be like, let's do something different. And yeah, I mean, really, truthfully, I was weird. But, now I look back at that and I laugh because I'm like, oh my God, I was just way ahead of my time, because it's all about relationship marketing now. It's all about, what is it that you say when something goes wrong? How do you respond to that? Those are the best opportunities to create a bond with your consumer, is when something goes wrong. Because if you respond to it in a way that is just awesome, they're your forever customers, right? So we sometimes look at those things wrong. Let's try to get it perfect and then get it out there. You're late to the party. You've probably missed the trend if there was a trend. But you've spent a lot of money, a lot of development, a lot of time, swirling ideas around amongst yourselves who are not ultimately the end users or the unbiased end users, instead of putting it out there and saying, tell us what you think, and getting that feedback back. And now with the democratization of everything, sales, marketing, manufacturing, you can do that, right? You can put something out there on your own site and start talking to people right away and saying, tell us what you love, tell us what you don't. Thank you for your feedback. And oh my gosh, I love your picture. And, thanks for sharing, and creating this personalized relationship. It's beautiful, and it allows for that. It gives permission for that safe space that you were talking about, to be able to say, it's okay if we didn't get it just perfect. And then outside of that, if it's just not in your business model to launch things, in that way, just being able to have that skunkworks, area where you allow people to just try the crazy, try something new, turn it upside down. I used to say, let's not sit around the table and talk about it. Let's stand on top of the table and talk about it. Let's look at it from a different angle or a different viewpoint,
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, well, you still do get the feedback. Like, it's not like you get nothing out of it. It's still market research.
You mean if you launch it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely right. It's the best kind of market research there is, because it's someone who is in the situation, with the need or the want for the product or service, who is consuming it or engaging with it. That's the best kind, versus you try to create these kind of research pods where you're trying to put it up against competition before it's launched, put it up against competition and everything like that. But it's not in the store, on the shelf, with the price point on it, in your, exact mindset that you're going to be wanting to be purchasing it. So there's nothing better than launching and learning.
And if you are at a big company like Play-Doh, how do you get close to the customer or the consumer?
Yeah, that's another great question, Jack, because today I don't know. I haven't been there in 15 years. But back then, no, we did not have one-to-one. I should say, in a brand like Play-Doh, no, other than when we were doing research with our consumers, and we had great, incredible research departments, the best I've worked with. But the only difference was probably with the collector market, which was incredible. So the fans of the collector, the Comic-Con fans and our brands with G.I. Joe and Transformers and all of those brands, they had that kind of personalized relationship, right? So that was really interesting. I always found that fascinating too. But on the mass market brands in a large company back then, it was a different story. Today, there's social media. This was before social media. So, back then, it was just a very different world.
I know that you need to go soon, so I'll get this wrapped up pretty quick. But I did do my homework and bought the book. Leigh Anne recommended the Brand Sense book from Martin Lindstrom that you did mention earlier in the episode as well. And you were mentioning before about the pine scent that was going into the retailers. He also mentions Play-Doh in there, that some retailers were spraying the scent of Play-Doh, and that got people to buy it more.
Oh, really? I didn't remember that. Maybe that's where we got the idea. That's really funny. I did have that book during that time. That's pretty funny. Yeah. But I'm not surprised. I don't remember ever hearing that.
Okay.
It certainly wasn't like a Hasbro led initiative. But I can imagine people doing that. It's such a wonderful scent. It's so relaxing and just brings back so many memories. I still have a little sample bottle around here somewhere. Every once in a while, I'll spray it just for fun.
Get some here too.
Yes, right. And the perfume smells exactly like Play-Doh. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a strong, overbearing smell, is it? But it's very, very distinct.
Yeah, it's very distinct. It really is. I don't know how they ever duplicated it, but it was pretty amazing that how much the perfume smelled like it.
Do you know how the scent was created in the first place? Because on my other episode, I had the theory that it maybe it was an accident as part of creating the product, is that it just had this scent as part of it. Do you know if that was the case?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I came into Play-Doh long after it was created as a childhood brand, so I don't know what the thinking that went into the creation of the scent, if it was, accidental, or if it was specifically designed that way. I do know that I heard at one point over the course of my career that there was a secret ingredient, and that I wasn't allowed to tell anybody what the secret ingredient is. So don't try to get it out of me, because I'll take it to my grave.
Okay.
My husband doesn't even know. But I don't know. That could be a myth. I really honestly don't know. I know that there were intentional bitter ingredients put in there to ensure people don't eat Play-Doh. That happened at some point in the course of Play-Doh's history, to make it taste really bad and bitter,
Yeah.
so that because
That
it
makes a lot of
smells so
sense.
good, you want to eat it. And especially if you're making like a little pie, and the kids will want to eat. But so I do know that happened, but I truthfully don't know what the history of it was. I mean, we acquired it when I was at Hasbro, I think through the Kenner Parker Tonka acquisition, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So a lot of that history, when it goes from company to company is lost, So everything I learned about the heritage of it, I learned honestly through research, not
Wow.
through, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. Right. I think you were saying last time it's the second most distinctive smell behind coffee. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody told me that at one point too. And, again, don't quote me on it any further than this, because I don't know. I just remember hearing at one point, and I think that was also one of the driving factors in our conversations about, playing off of the scent for the 50th anniversary, because of how recognizable the scent was. I mean, it has something like 99% penetration in
crazy.
households with children. So it's it's high penetration. It's got such a memorable and distinctive scent that it's obviously an opportunity waiting to happen. But I mean, think about that. The second most recognizable scent behind coffee. I mean, you can't plan that kind of stuff in a brand marketing plan. That's just
no. You just take advantage of it, I guess.
Exactly, which is what any good marketer would want to do, right?
Yeah, for sure. And when I knew I was going to interview today, I did ask a few people about the scent of it, and everyone recognizes it. Some of them go, "Oh, yeah, it does have a distinct smell," or some of them go, "Yeah, of course. Like, of course, it smells a certain way." There was no one said, "Oh, you sure?" Like, there was no doubt. So I did a little bit of research before this, but thank you so much for jumping on today. I will definitely link to your Medium blog posts in the description of the episode. I really think they're worth reading, especially the business model innovation stuff I thought was particularly intriguing. And I don't think it's outside the realms of what marketers need to be thinking about either. It's not like in this entire other world. It does feel like an evolution on perhaps
Absolutely.
what I'm guessing you were doing before. Yeah, if people want to find you, they want to make contact, reach out, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can go through you. You know how to get in touch with me, or on LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn, Leigh Anne Capello. So just reach out to me there. I'm always interested in talking to people and engaging in any kind of innovative diagonal thinking, problem solving, so that's my goal right now, is just to meet interesting people and brainstorm around how we can solve some of the challenges or push on some of the opportunities in the world. So yeah, always open to that.
Yeah, amazing. All right, we'll link to all that. If anyone does come through me, I'm happy to point them in the right direction as well. But it's a privilege to get to chat to you today, Leigh Anne. I really appreciate you taking the time. When I reached out, I didn't know whether you'd be interested in doing something like this or not, but it was really, really fascinating, and I do appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out, and I really enjoyed chatting with you. Call anytime. Happy to talk more.
Awesome. Thank you, Leigh Anne.
Okay. Take
Bye.
care, Jack.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are enjoying the episodes, please leave a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. It really helps to build the podcast credibility and to help others find this type of information.